Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow. This is the Thursday night get-together of the gang from In Pit Lane on Channel 31, and we're welcoming you once again. Thanks for joining us. Those of you who are joining us, got a few things to talk about tonight. We're probably going to keep the Formula One talk a little under the radar at the moment, because next Tuesday night, the final edition of this season of In Pit Lane, Doc, Pete, and I go into a lot about Formula One, but there is some stuff that's come up since we had a chat on Tuesday night about it, so we'll certainly talk about that. Speaking of Doc and Pete and Chris and everyone else, let's bring everyone in. And before we go any further, Doc, thank you for the offer. I don't care if it is for charity. I have no interest at all in checking out your bum picture. I want nothing to do with your bum.
Do you want me to stand? I'll stand.
No, for God's sake, no.
No, okay,
viewing,
right.
yes.
We do some sight gags every now and again, but no, I do admit I do have clothes on, fully clothed.
That makes one of us.
I've got some explaining to do. Just before I fully explain, I just want to congratulate Matt Stone Racing for joining the prostate cancer drive I saw during the week as well too, which is related to what we're about to chat about with my bum, or someone else's bum anyway. So congratulations. Hope Jack LeBrock and Mr. Young Hazelwood are going to do, how many steps was it? Oh, I have to look at it's an amazing amount of steps, and it's particularly personal for Jack LeBrock's dad, who was diagnosed with prostate cancer about half a dozen years ago. So that's great stuff. But on the lighter side of things, the reason I have my bum being applauded here and maybe produced is Valtteri Bottas.
That's the first time anybody's ever said that.
Just trying to think if any girls have said. None of the girls. No one said it to me lately.
Wrong show.
I was going to say, my pants aren't tight enough. I've heard that before. But anyway, let's not go into enough about me. Let's get about Valtteri Bottas. So Formula One driver, fantastic guy. Has an Aussie girlfriend over there. So Tiffany, Tiffany Cromwell, his girlfriend, and Valtteri were holidaying after the Miami race earlier in the week, and decided to stay on a little bit longer in Americas. And they were having a bit of fun mucking around in the holidays, and he stripped down naked, jumped in a stream, and you can Google it yourself. It's pretty much the second thing that comes up about Valtteri at the moment. He's laying.
I wonder what the first is.
He's a Formula One driver. That's the main thing. Yeah. No, he's not facing up. That's not the first thing, fortunately. He's facing down, and you get a full naked shot of him. So it's basically a bum shot from about 50.
Is that the equivalent of the winged keel?
Ben Lexon's not here to verify that, but it could be. Yes. Anyway, he was downstream. Anyway, and facing down, and so anyway, lovely shot by Tiffany. They put it on Twitter. An artist picked it up, a professional photographer. didn't have to really airbrush it, just made it look a little bit better, and all the fanfare and all the carry on, a lot of response to it. So they made a professional photo of it, picture of it, etc., framed it, and put it up for auction, and raised $50,000 euro for charity, which is fantastic. We should be applauding that. There you go.
Yes, well, good on Valtteri Bottas and his bum. So there you go. So we'll see. Let's see what I imagine if Lewis Hamilton did that, it'd be a weighted keel. So.
Oh, I'm staying away from that one.
Anyway, let's before we get into that, let's welcome some of the regulars on board once again. G'day, Box is joining us once again. Box. Jeff McWigan is back. G'day, been a while. G'day, Jeff. How are you? Hope good evening. See that? I like that.
Welcome back, Cotter.
I like that, Jeff. I mean, he's not just saying hello to us, but he's saying hello to you at home as well. This is good. Also joining us, David Howard. David's up at the Nationals, the Motorsport Australia Nationals.
He's making a comeback.
Sydney Motorsport Park.
So, did you see his post today as well too? Did you?
No, I've just got what's there. So what does he?
That's what I said. No, I saw David Howard's post today. He's made a comeback. I think he's been out of the game for 2 or 3 years. So this is his first event for a few years, and he's all pumped and ready to get Action Jackson about. So good luck, David. I hope you have a good weekend and soak it all in.
Yes, good luck. Yes, we'll keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for that on the weekend. If you've got. If you're one of the 25 people in the country to have Stan Sport, you can watch it there. But the good news is 2 hours, I think it's 2 hours of highlights or 90 minutes of highlights on 9Gem. How much, Pete?
5:30 till 7:30 on Saturday night.
Okay, so a couple of hours of live on free to air on 9Gem. Which was always sort of listed. They called it Gem because that was supposedly the Nine's women's station, but it's sort of been taken over like everything else. I mean, we blokes can't leave things alone.
It's just like everything else too. It's been diversified. Yeah.
Well, diversify. If you call sort of being taken over by blokes as being diversity, yeah, I suppose it has been. But
anyway, they have infomercials on it as well too for girls.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. That's why I don't watch any of that stuff. But it's on Gem, so this is the reason. If you don't know where Gem is, go and tune in on your set-top box, and you'll find Gem. It's on your television. So yeah, so Saturday night you can watch that. Also, John RB, hey, saying hello to Box. So there you go. There's a whole other show going on between Box and John. We've got Tony P. G'day, Tony. How are you? Evening
all.
Hello,
Mr. Regular.
Giuseppe is also on board.
Good to have him back.
Yes, and as Jeff is saying, if it was Lewis Bum, it would have been diamond studded. Wasn't that a song by Paul Simon?
Oh, I was about to say that's your reference anyway. I got the joke before it'd be weighted, so to have some sort of piercing or whatever it may be to it, yeah, or a heavy chain on it. There you go. Boom, boom.
And also just joining us, John is on board. John Dozzy is on as well. Hi, John. Thanks for joining us.
Mr.
So anyway, let's talk about briefly Formula One. As I said, we won't go into too much detail because watch our Tuesday night, Channel 31 at 8 o'clock, and also on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Basically, we were going to do a whole bunch of categories, but we just didn't have time. We basically spent the whole time talking Formula One, so we won't talk too much about it. But it's interesting, a couple of things that have come out. Since we recorded that program, and one of them is that one thing we do talk about is the future of Daniel Ricciardo, and it's come out today that Zach Brown has publicly admitted that they're quite actually that he has not reached met their expectations, and they're hoping that he will improve, but reading between the lines, I think it's looking more likely than anything now that. They might be looking to move if Daniel doesn't sort of get his act together and be able to drive this car properly. I think it might be Daniel's last year with at least with McLaren. So yeah, so he could be on the
shaky ground. Yeah, unfortunately for Daniel. On a lighter side, they'll take the pressure off Daniel for us. No use us back. It is what it is to a certain extent. Great character, but we were talking behind the scenes. They found the problem with the Ferrari on the weekend for Leclerc. that was one of the biggest surprises, the reliability of that. So the turbo and the MGUH was the problem, and they're going to replace that, and hopefully all is well for the next race down at Monaco, as we pronounced it. We were going into
yes, and also at Monaco, Red Bull have announced they're going to have a redesign, a bit of a rethink on the DRS activation. Apparently, it's an ultra lightweight design, and they're concerned that it failed on a couple of occasions. So they're going to have a bit of a tinker with that before Monaco on the weekend. Although DRS it's not going to be, the wing's not going to be under the same sort of stress because they're not going to have the same high speed, but they certainly had some problems, so that was it. Other thing coming up in Formula One, Jack Doohan. This is Jack Doohan is saying he wants a seat in Formula One next year.
Is he getting ahead of his bum?
Oh, I think so. Pete, what do you think?
Sorry, what was that?
Jack Doohan publicly saying that he wants a seat in Formula One in 2023, despite not having won
only one season in Formula 2.
Yeah, he said one season in Formula 2, and I'm off to Formula 1. So
only one podium.
Jumping the gun a bit, one podium. Hasn't won a race.
Ambitious, you think?
I think he's jumping the gun. Yeah.
Jumping the American AK style guns.
Yes, we won't go there. It was another terrible, outrageous.
But I'm saying, I think Jack Jones. And look. Also, I read in the in snippets of his interview that was overseas. He has got a lot of backing. He has got a lot of support, and he has got a lot of fans. And Dad's right behind him. But that could pose the problem in itself. That last comment. He said in the interview, there's only basically myself and Dad and my sponsors. He hasn't got a hell of a huge amount of mentorship or partnerships or networking. So they've still got a little bit of a way to go. So if they think they can jump into Formula One a little bit naive, they might get beaten around the ears a little bit as well too. And you might find out very quickly because, he has got Oscar and himself, they did get the 2021 spec car last year, earlier in the year, I should say, and they got 100 laps in that. So he has had a Formula One feel for it, but getting the feel for it and getting some testing and getting the pat on the back, well done, young fella, is a little bit different to doing the groundwork and having and setting the world on fire like Oscar and his teammate did last year.
And it was his first run, but I mean they did point out that Doohan was substantially slower than Oscar was, which you would expect, of course, because Oscar has had some experience in the past. But it would be an outrage if Oscar if Jack got into Formula One before Oscar Piastri. But on that announcement, Alpine have announced that they are going to make a decision very soon, and it is looking increasingly like that decision will be farewell Fernando.
That's disturbing.
The drums are beating Fernando.
Yes, exactly. I thought as soon as I said it, I went, damn, I missed that. I'm glad you picked it up, Pete.
Okay, so look, the rumour mills are absolutely rife. We're not even quite halfway through the season yet. If we have Fernando, thanks very much. You've been stellar. Seb, 4 times world champion, blah, blah, blah. Great. And, he's wisened up and matured in his latter years in Formula One and also mellowed a little bit and does a bit more for charity and the people around him. He's learned his lessons instead of just taking everybody out in the first turn. And, maybe 1 or 2 others. There's a few seats that are going to be up for bidding. I mean, I'm opening this up to the whole room here. Everyone on Full Course Yellow watching now, make a comment. Give us some feedback. Tell us what you think. Have you heard something we haven't heard? Who else is going to, we're usually crying for seats at the end of the season. No one's going to have a Formula One spot. There's no seats. All these guys are running around for a dozen years. We might have 2 or 3, 4 spots at the end of this year. Who's going to get in other than Oscar?
I think if Jack Doohan went in now, it'd be another situation with Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher, where they're at the tail end of the field.
Okay, well, we will. We give you everything on Full Course Yellow. Not only do we talk about Valtteri Bottas's bum, but we also give you film reviews as well. Because Dave Stillwell's not with us tonight, and apparently because he's actually gone to see Top Gun Maverick tonight, and the early reviews are in. See it.
Oh, he's probably unanimous. For
Don't think I'll take you up on that because I saw the first one and it was terrible.
Well, everyone around Dave's with the rest of the world. I haven't heard a bad review yet. So, although I did see it getting slightly off the subject, but it does involve a big motor. What's that comedian's name that goes for rides in cars like Jerry Seinfeld? What's his name? Took over on Saturday Night Live after.
And he did a terrible thing at Miami. Yeah, I know who you're thinking of.
Anyway, so he jumped in a plane with Tom Cruise. He walked out there and they just did the old cliche joke.
James Corden.
James Corden, yeah.
James Corden. So I did actually find, because I only got the shortened version, the little package of about 2 minutes, which is great because it can be a little bit tedious and boring hearing joke after joke after joke of the same stuff. But Tom Cruise obviously has his full license, did a lot of his own stunts in the movie. They jumped in Tom's 1946. Richie might be able to help me out with this and Google this up for me and work it out. You're the guru on fighter planes and some of the old nostalgic planes. Yes, you do. You've told me some great stuff about planes in the past off air when we're doing things. So he jumped in his own plane. It's like a 1946 fighter or something like that. And then after doing a loop de loops and mucking around that, they jumped in a more modern fighter the next day and did it all again. So played all the music. But
a 44, appropriately enough, a 44 Mustang P51.
Thanks,
so
Dave.
That's Dave. Thanks, David. And good day. Hi, David. Good to have you here as well, David.
There you go. So he must have
in
seen
Sydney. David runs BMWs in historic racing.
Excellent.
So we've had show some of the John Player special cars, Jim's old cars. So anyway, that's sort of the movie review of Top Gun Maverick. If you would like to see it, well, by all means see it. I might give it a miss, but anyway, I tell you what, nobody gave a miss to, and we've got to say, because we were sort of we gave a preview of it, and it was an absolutely massive success. And Diaz put it in top fuel at HPR at Heathcote Park. Was huge. It was, and I wasn't surprised. I mean, if you remember, Doc, I gave you that question to say to Lance when you spoke to him up at the Mopar Nationals. Said, how are you going to cope with the massive crowd that you're going to get? Because you're going to get 10, 15,000, and they got 10 or 15,000. If Winton hadn't have been on, they would have got 20,000 easily there if they could have fitted them in.
Sum it up in one sentence.
Need a bigger town.
Yeah. Well, I'll sum up in one sentence, and I'll just put it all together and put it in my words for Lance, and it's very respective. We're going to try our best, and they did. Unfortunately, it might have been a little bit short this time, but hopefully, maybe by October, the next big gig, they'll do it because they're making improvements every weekend.
I think the thing was, what happened on the track was absolutely faultless. I mean, the surface, I was worried because the surface was fairly new. I thought, they could have problems with the surface. There could be all sorts of things. There were no problems with that at all. It seemed everybody was very happy with it.
The Pepsi can performed.
The Pepsi, that was about the best Pepsi ad you've ever seen. If you haven't seen it, it's on my personal page. I shared it from somebody of showing you the power and the thunder of a top fuel dragster, and just incredible. But huge weekend of both drag racing, and they also had the summer slam or the summer Nat Slam on there with the burnouts and the car show and all the rest of it. So. And they're coming back in October. I said on the news on Tuesday night, make your bookings now if you want to have any chance of getting any accommodation. And I had a look, and 90% of accommodation in that region is already gone for that weekend. So if you want to go up there, get on now and make your accommodation.
Or
otherwise,
here's a tip: Anaconda and Aussie Disposal's got sales on every weekend. Buy really good swag.
Yeah, yeah. I think well, a lot of people did camp up there, and despite the weather, they had a fabulous time. Everybody had a ball, from what I saw. So it was a really, really successful race, and it was just fantastic. But it was also so frustrating when you consider that the pent up demand for top level drag racing and top fuel drag racing here in Victoria and here in Melbourne, and you realise that 20 minutes outside of the central business district, Calder Park is sitting there just waiting for Rodney to hand the key over to Pete and the drag racing guys and say, okay, you can come back. Nobody seems to know what's going on there. Rodney is, saying it's not ready yet. It will be ready soon. It will, but it's interesting to note on the new Top Fuel calendar for the next series next year, there is no Calder Park. There is no Andra Drag Racing Nationals at Calder Park. So I think, regardless of what's happened, yes, it is. It is silence. It is just nothing at all. Nothing at all there. So anyway, I don't know.
We'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully something eventuates, so we get some sort of some sort of announcement down the track. Very, very good. So yeah, congratulations, well done, guys. But I'm already going to think about going. Well, I've got family in Bendigo. I'm going to pitch a caravan. I think that's the only way I'm going to get anywhere near the place.
Yeah, I must admit, I shouldn't. I'm sort of regretting it now, because I had a look the other night and I thought, and I found some reasonably affordable accommodation, and I thought, will I? And I said, no, I better not. I've got some other bills to pay this week, and I didn't get it. And I went back today and had a look, and pretty much everything's gone. All the cheap stuff is gone already. So huge weekend.
You might be able to get a tent out in the truck stop out the road.
That's it. Well, I've got a tent. I've got a tent, so so I can do that. But anyway, got Dale Jackson saying like to see Mitch Evans from Formula E get a shot too. Yeah, Mitch is one of those guys who's sort of like a lot of the Formula E guys who fell through the cracks. He was heading for. He looked like he could be anything. He looked like an absolute superstar and just couldn't get the breaks, didn't have the money, but eventually fell into Formula E. And I think he's making a very good career for himself in Formula E. But yeah, it's a bit frustrating. You see a lot of those guys in Formula E and you think, geez, I'd like to see them in something with a bit more power and a bit more noise. And Mitch is certainly one of them. He would be very good in a lot of categories, including things like the World Endurance Championship as well. And yeah,
I'd like to just touch on a subject as well, though, too. We haven't prepared for, but I heard a bit of news of in the last couple of days. Was we all know about the Motorsport Australia announcement about Targa and rallies, etc., on the bitumen and all, slightly off road. But Tony Quinn has come up with an announcement for a new Tarmac Rally Association in the last couple of days. It's going to be called the TRCAA, which stands for Tarmac Rally Competitors Association of Australia. It's not going to be a sanctioning body or a promoter or anything like that. It's only for the drivers at this stage. It's going to offer membership, I think, for $50, and it's going to be called Gold Class or something along those lines.
It would be with Tony involved. It'd have to be gold or platinum or diamond or something.
You'll be a VIP. Boom, boom. You don't have to eat the dinky dog food out of the can like you do with Mel Gibson on the Mad Max movies. However, so yeah, for the Gold Class membership, you also have had to have raced in the last 4 years at that level of A1 or whatever class it is for rallies. So look, it's a bit of a surprise, especially with what's been going on with all rallies suspended, tarmac rallies suspended, unfortunately, of late. But it's going to give a voice to the drivers that are in the rally and that sort of stuff. So they aren't beating the war drums yet, but it may be an opportunity for a little bit of everyone to get their piece and heard and said, and maybe another point of view from the drivers themselves, because for many, many years, the only way they've been able to speak up is probably at scrutineering or in the briefings before the races, etc., or on social media these days. So
it's a good idea from for them to do this, because they're all very keen. I mean, everybody who's been involved in in Targa Tasmania and all those rallies, they tend to love them, and they want them to continue. The problem, as I said a couple of weeks ago when the announcement was made, is it's not so much Motorsport Australia just by themselves. It's the problem is the insurance companies, and it's becoming increasingly difficult. And all sport in Australia is going to have to realise that at some point we're going to have to do essentially what they did in New Zealand was they took it out of the hands of private enterprise and, dare I use the terrible word, they socialised it. There is now a levy on every sporting event in New Zealand. When you go into a motorsport event, a rugby match, a cricket match, any sporting event in New Zealand now, there is a levy on all the tickets, on all ticket sales, and that money is essentially for a national sport insurance. So because it had got to the stage where it was very, very possible that motorsport in New Zealand was going to shut down completely because the insurance company said, no, it's too dangerous, we're not taking the risk, or if we do, it's going to cost you millions and millions and millions of dollars to insure it. And so and it wasn't just motorsport, it was rugby. They had a lot of, there was lots of accidents in rugby, a lot of people getting paralysed. So eventually the government took it under their wing and said, okay, for the sake of sport and to make sure that sport could continue at all levels, we're going to take over and have a national sporting insurance scheme. And apparently it's working like a dream. So it's something that perhaps needs to be looked at.
Not trying to break news or be the late breaker or be the guru or anything like that, but just going back to Formula One stuff. I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about it, the Finnish Grand Prix. I'm not sure if you put in the captions along the bottom there, but the Finnish Grand Prix has been deferred to 2023, which obviously, to explain a little further, it borderlines with Ukraine. But they said the main reason they are going to throw it back to next year, it is cancelled for this year, is because of logistics and supply and that sort of stuff, not because of the threat of war. Going back to the Tony Quinn thing as well too, we're all quite aware if you're deaf in the motorsport that Tony does own Queensland Raceway these days. But
Tony owns Queensland these days.
Yeah. Well, not quite, because this is where he hasn't been able to make a difference. Unfortunately, I did see the news this week that Archerfield Speedway is going to close sooner rather than later. So it was deemed to be 2027 was its last hurrah. Unfortunately, it might be bring forward because, well, with what the climate that we're in as far as property goes, it's going to be classified as an industrial estate, and it's worth a hell of a lot more to industry these days to put some factories up instead of doing it. So the cries are already out. Don't blame me, because I've also broadcasted it in the news, etc. I'm not the only one that's put it out in there, the big wide world, that they want another speedway put somewhere. But aren't we all crying for different sorts of complexes all over?
It's going to be very hard. I mean, like the whole problem between the insurance problem and the land problem. I mean, we'll lose Sandown because of the land, and we're losing Archfield. We lost Parramatta Speedway for a development that now for a public transport development in Sydney, which I believe now may not even be going ahead. So we might have sort of put the bulldozer through Parramatta for no reason at all.
There's a lot of reasons you should put a bulldozer through Parramatta, but it may not just be for the racetrack. As well. But I'm not picking on Parramatta. There's just some sections that are getting a little bit old and not relevant, and people have got no heritage listing for want for it. So, and
I think Jeff is on the mark there in terms of what Rodney Jane, what they're doing out at Calder Park is they're just Rodney's in no hurry, just sitting back there,
sitting on their Valtteri Bottas bums with hands underneath. There you go. That's what they're doing.
Well, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, I mean, Mark Fogarty caught up, managed to catch up with Rodney because he's a very hard man to catch up with and get it.
He chased him through a paddock.
Almost literally, and he there at Albert Park because he made the comeback to the Carrera Cup, and he asked about Calder Park and Adelaide International Raceway, and Rodney's comment was that both of them are not for sale. The motor racing will happen again, but he pointed out, and it was very pointed, that the tracks are available. They are there. Anybody wants to race there, come and talk to us. You give us the money. We'll open it up, but if you want any modifications done, if you want it to be basically fit for purpose, you pay the money, because Rodney ain't going to.
See, one of the questions I've been asked recently and multiple times, and I don't have an answer for it as well too, because Brett and I get a lot of questions when we go to tracks, and I've heard this a few times. Oh, the drifts are out there, so why can't the drags? And I said that's an entirely different kettle of fish. Sorry to use the pun, cliche intended. Unfortunately, the drifts out there, yes, they're out every second week out there. They're running around, burning, skidding, all that sort of stuff, but they have a different agreement. The drag strip and the drifts are a completely different contract, a different thing. So,
they use different parts of the track as well.
Different parts of the track, different areas, different like that. I'm sure Rodney's got a completely separate deal. And look, no one's complaining about drifting or etc. like that. I'm just getting a lot of questions from time to time. People saying, "Oh, the drifts are out there. What's wrong with the drags? Surely it's got something to do with it. Why can't the drags be happening?" Well, the best thing is, I don't know Rodney's email. I do have his phone number, but I don't call it because it's none of my business to. Just email Rodney yourself. Don't spam him.
Well, I have called it, and what you get is the secretary saying, Mr. Jane will call. We'll leave a message, and Mr. Jane will call you back. And I've never got a message back. So I think
that's the mobile number.
Dale Jackson is pointing out Calder Park. What a place for a half-mile speedway. That's what I would do. With that, you're never going to get the Thunderdome running again. But that would be the basis for a really good speedway. If you sort of just forget about building the NASCAR, so just build a traditional, big speedway for sprint cars and all. You can't tell me that if you had, like once a month, if you had, a big sprint car show out at Calder Park, that you wouldn't get 10, 15,000 people.
Well, here's an idea. It's probably been thought of before, but no one's gone ahead of it. What about a four-wheel drive Thunderdome? That's what you'd need.
Well, that's all you could. Yeah, that's all you could use it for at the moment.
Why not start a four-wheel drive club and do a four-wheel drive Thunderdome around it and see?
Well, they did run a rally round there a few years ago. They had a round of, I think it was the Victorian Rally Championship, ran around out there. Yeah, so because and I know because we wanted to go out and film it, and that was an early case of insurance thing because we rang them and said, hey, we'd like to come out and film, and they said. No, and in fact, I'll say, and I've forgotten the name of who was involved, but somebody on the weekend went up to Rob Roy to do some. The Rob Roy Hill Climb was on the weekend, an historic meeting, and they went up to Rob Roy to sort of take some photos as they have done from it, and they were refused entry. They were told, no, you can't. And they went, hang on, I'm a media member. And like, no, you can't because insurance said no. So,
I'm very unfortunate.
Okay, so we've got a big weekend.
Just before you do, quickly, I'm going to jump onto some bike news because we did miss out on that on after all the Formula One on Tuesday night. The main news this week, other than is that someone went out there and decided to front Kawasaki and said, Suzuki's out. What about the chances of you coming back next year? And it's been put to the coals already. The hot irons come out. Brandon says, no, thank you. We are not interested. Go and direct your media and your questions and your press and reports to everybody else. So Suzuki's definitely gone. Mur and Rins are hot property like we thought we were when it was announced a few weeks ago when Brett and I were chatting about it on here. However, Kawasaki have been approached and they said thanks, but no thanks because we're playing smart. We've been in since 2009, been in World Superbike. And we like the fact that we can put a bike that's close to production out on there, race every 2 weeks. Jonathan Rea, yes, he should have been in MotoGP a long time ago and should have been given his chance. But he's very happy with us. We're happy with him. And Kawasaki are going to stay in World Superbikes. And we think that's, as a race team and as a company, we like doing it. So just wanted to, put it out there as well, though, too, being a big bike man. And
also, as you can see on the bottom, of the on the ticker as well, scrolling through, the Aprilia have re-signed Alexia Spargaro and Maverick Vinales, and they will be running again in 2023. So that's one part. Also, the boss of Ducati has said in an interview in Italy, he's effectively confirmed that Jack Miller is gone. But they did say they would like him to continue with the company in some form, perhaps with the privateer team. But as he said we have a deal to put to Jack, but we don't think Jack is going to like it. So they're more or less saying that like it's
test
probably
rider.
goodbye. Yeah, it's probably goodbye, Jack. So in terms
that
of
usually means
Ducati,
you can stay with us as factory team, but you're not racing. So
but you're not
that
racing.
means that's usually the test rider. And I think if they're happy to support him into a Pramac role, that would be a good outcome because he'd be getting most of the good bits on a 2023 bike, the same as the factory team would be anyway.
Mad Cow Mark is back with. He's got a new handle now, Mr. Mad Cow. Now he's Mr. Mad. He's not Sir Mad Cow. He hasn't been knighted or anything. He's got a cartoon and everything. So
have a look at the hooves on it. Yeah, they're going out in every direction. And plus the tails, it looks like it's been electrified.
Saw him popping up on the weekend, tuning into making some comments at the live stream of Santa Pod. Speaking of which. Top Fuel drag racing. If you're into Top Fuel drag racing this week, in fact, I shouldn't say this, but if you watch, I don't think the Top Fuels are out tonight, but right over this weekend, and in fact, streaming live now, Santa Pod TV on the Santa Pod YouTube channel, the FIA European Drag Racing Championships, Alcohol Funny Cars, Top Fuelers, Top Bike, all of the Pro Stock, Pro Mod, really good field of top door slammers, Pro Mods. All happening at Santa Pod over the weekend. Fabulous, just fabulous stuff. Once again, I have problems with the way they televise. From a technical point of view, it's frustrating as hell the way they cover the racing at Santa Pod, but at least they do cover it. And the racing is fantastic. The cars are fascinating. They put on a great show. So if you're looking for something it's a very, very big weekend of motorsport, because we also have the Nürburgring 24 Hours, which is they're also on track as we're speaking. They're there, so and that will be
really. So I'm going to go.
Yeah, all the qualifying sessions, the practice and the night practice, everything, and the race itself are all on their YouTube channel. We'll stick embed codes over the course of the weekend when I get around to it. We'll stick embed codes and put it onto the In Pit Lane website as well. So if you don't want to hunt around, we'll put as much stuff as possible on the inpitlane.com.
Got a job
website.
for you, Chief. While you're doing those bed codes in, you need to jump on Roy Virtual R's website, who's our main sponsor for our show, which is fantastic. Roy's not with us tonight, but you usually see a caption down there like Mr. Mad Cow is there. Different account. There you go. He's got an alias. So you need to jump on Roy's posts that we have been inundated sometimes with likes and lots of topic discussions and people thrown out. I usually hit like. Good evening, Russell. Thank you. I'll just interrupt myself. Brett, jump on Roy's post for promoting on Facebook on In Pit Lane, because a guy has asked, do we do drags on it? So I've hit like, but you can do if you don't reply, I'll give you a couple of days to do it, and I'll put a link to one of our drag specials or something like that. So
we certainly will, although one of our drag things at the moment is subject to a copyright strike, and it's the one that we actually filmed. It was our live stream. It was us doing the live stream. We were the ones up there with our cameras and out there at Hidden Valley, and it's been hit with a copyright strike from some mob of crooks in Europe. So
they've taken over the world.
Doc, do you know anything about e-scooters? Okay.
What?
Yep.
That one has escaped me, fortunately, for the time being. I'll have to look. I don't. Well, sorry, Brett. I was going to say, Pete's usually with me. Sometimes Brett with me all the time. You don't want to hear me vent when we're going through the streets of Melbourne, through Swanston Street, Elizabeth Street, anywhere those streets, and one of those scooters come down it, because, I'm being a purist on a motorcycle. I just think I'm a temporary Australian, 42 times more likely to bloody have an accident than a car. But these guys that are going around in their black blue suede shoes and their pants and socks and stuff like that and thongs that they go race around Melbourne with, Lord help us. So hopefully these guys are wearing some protective gear, MCM. Are they e-scooter championships, London?
Hopefully it doesn't happen.
Pardon?
Hopefully it doesn't happen.
Well, it looks like it's happened. So we'll have to look at that. So that's something else to catch up on.
I'm reading with my phone book tonight. Anyway,
there. But as Mark's saying, the most ridiculous thing. So anyway, we'll
They don't go that fast, do they?
Well, Well, who
I think
knows?
some bikes go
They're
fast.
dangerous because of the lack of apparel that they wear, Richie. So
Now, Tony's pointing out that it is in fact being covered on Foxtel and KO. So yeah, God help us. So there you go. So have a
Very
look.
well lighting.
E-scooter. There you go.
They're just
So where are
watching
they?
for the crashes.
They ride on the footpath, the bicycle lane, or the carriageway.
Or they get a choice of all three, whichever circuit they want to race on in over a weekend. In their probably.
And to make it more realistic, they've got to go in between women pushing prams and old age pensioners on walking
Trying to
frames
cross the road. Yeah.
The
people
Beatles
trying to cross the road.
Beatles walking
With food
across
in
the
it.
zebra crossing or something like that in downtown Abbey, and that's scary. Look, it's just the ratings are for the crashes. It's got to be for those. Seriously, that is. Hey Doc, have I seen the T Fuel record with Larry the Spider-Man? I've got some research to do tonight. I'm looking up e-scooters, and I haven't seen Jeff, but I'm looking forward to it now.
Well, the reason
Larry the Spider-Man.
Larry the Spider-Man. Well, we did run it on the news last week. The NHRA, because they don't run Top Fuel all that often, and in NHRA Top Fuel is only Harleys, and Larry McBride is the king of Top Fuel drag race, and he said a top bid was an elapsed speed world record. At the last round, so that is if you go onto the in-pit lane, I no doubt Jeff you've seen it, and most people have seen it. But it's we did have it on the news in our roundup, in our wrap of NHRA from that weekend. We did run it there. So yeah, fabulous. It was if Nitro on 4 wheels is crazy, Nitro on 2 wheels is something beyond that. I mean, it's just you're strapped there and you're sitting there with sort of literally a bomb between your legs.
So I'm watching. I'm not
more powerful than a Formula One car.
I won't get a strike for us because we are on YouTube right now. But yeah, I'm looking at the first 4 things on YouTube. There's a 10-minute, 9-minute, 15-minute. So I'll give that a miss until after the show because the other thing is, we don't want to put this up. So no, I'm looking at that and it looks fun. So
well, we can run that because NHRA are very good. NHRA send us a video news release. That's the reason we can run the NHRA stuff, because we have permission from NHRA to run. It's much easier to get stuff from NASCAR and IndyCar and NHRA than it is to get stuff from Supercars or Top Fuel, anybody here for any sport. So that's why we run it, and the NHRA stuff is up really quickly as well. I mean, literally, by the time I get up on a Monday morning, it's all there waiting for me to download and have a look at, so get me put in the show. But it was 270 miles per hour, and I
starting to watch it now. Yep, cool.
Yeah, so
good background noise.
And we've also got Matheson here in Australia on his Top Fuel bike as well, and getting desperately close to breaking through the 5-second barrier here as well. So that's good. Which I imagine would mean they're probably running the Top Fuel bikes. They're probably still running the bikes over the quarter and not the 1,000 foot. So that's interesting. Okay, so
I did see also the confirmation during the week. I got sent the notification. I know it's going to clash with Phillip Island, but it is now definitely going ahead. The Geelong Revival has been penciled in as a definite now as well too. So we've been talking about it for weeks because Brett and I were lucky enough to be accepted down there and given us the invite and let us do some fun stuff. And a shout out to Jeremy, who's our resident EVS operator on the tech room, on the control room on Tuesday nights at In Pit Lane when we do our show. Hopefully looks like we'll be back for another 13 weeks later on the year. We are officially on holidays from the show only. But, the Geelong Revival
more on that in a moment too.
Yep, the Geelong Revival will be definitely on later on this year in its usual spot down there along the Esplanade, on the beach there. And if you're a local, you'd probably know all about it and won't miss out about it. If you haven't been before and you don't have plans of going to Phillip Island, you want more of a leisurely day, a bit more laid back and it's just to do something different because you've done Phillip Island for the last 10 years, go to the Geelong Revival. Lots of fun, different cars, great atmosphere, and make a day of it. We had a lot
Yeah,
of
with
fun.
a bit of good weather, it is a great day out. The Geelong Revival. David pointing out the upcoming Sydney Classic historic meeting, the return of a Mercedes Cosworth 190E to Australian tracks. I think it was from memory. I think Phil Ward run one at one stage, but one of the Louis sponsored cars from 1987. So that'll be great. It's good to see a few cars coming into the country. So that's coming up in June. I mentioned the Queen's birthday long weekend up in Sydney, and also there's coming up at Morgan Park. The historic sports sedans are in action in a couple of weeks up there, but they'll also be in action at Winton, and also this weekend. Historic Winton is happening this weekend. Really wanted to go up to there, but once again it was another case of just couldn't get any accommodation. Not even the fact that it was unaffordable accommodation. It is just booked out solid. The closest thing I could find was actually Cowra in New South Wales. So yeah, that's how busy it's going to be up there. So they've had a couple of.
You've heard it from us. Everyone's just going to have to buy a decent swag, and otherwise you're not going to get around to these places soon.
Yeah, well, even caravan parks are good there. But I would certainly, if I had the money in the room, I'd certainly want a little camper van or something, because it seems to be about the only way you can get to these things now. And the accommodation is so ridiculous. I was supposed to go up like last weekend to Sydney. I had something on that I'd had planned all year, but I couldn't get any accommodation for under about $160 a night.
That's an impressive helmet, guys. I'm watching in the background, my background noise from the Spider-Man thing. That's a very impressive helmet.
He's quite the show. He's quite the showman, Larry. Been around for many, many years. In fact, did race in Australia at Calder Park. In fact, I'm trying to remember. Because they came out here many years ago, and D or somebody who's there. But there was an all bike drag meeting at Calder Park, and they brought out a number of the Nitro Harley guys. I'm not sure that Larry McBride was there, because I know we had, because of course, I'm going back years and years, but we did have a couple of the American guys on the show, and I'm not sure whether Larry McBride wasn't one of them, but it was a big meeting. It was a really big meeting.
I'll put it to Lance and the gang out there at Heathcote Park, are good friends of the show now, and say, look, Lance, what's the chance of getting these American speedsters over there on these absolute trick bikes?
That'd be the next step, because there used to be, anybody who's into drag racing would remember the Ampol New Year series, and that was absolutely.
And Ampol's back.
Ampol's back. Ampol's back, and they were huge supporters of drag racing. They used to sponsor Graham Withers and the Ampol GT Rail, but they also every year had a series around Australia called the Ampol New Year series, and they would bring over as a special attraction, a number of Americans. It would either be a couple of funny cars, or a funny car and a top fueler, or a couple of wheel standers, or a jet car or something. But it was always promoted as Australia versus America, and it was immensely popular. And it would be great to see, that come back again, and to see those, during the American off season, to just bring a couple of cars. Please bring some fuel altereds. We spoke to the fuel altered guys in America at Goodwood Festival of Speed about 7 or 8 years ago, and they all said, we'd love to come to Australia, but no one's ever invited us. And I was like, please invite them.
Ampol can be good ambassadors since they've been rebranded. Part of the mobile chain is obviously rebranded at most of their servos that weren't 7-Eleven, now Ampol. So there you go. It's a good chance for the Ampol to be ambassadors and start bringing out some of the stuff that people want to see and hear while we still have fuel, because I saw in the news tonight, there's calls they want to ban gas stoves from new houses as well now too, and make them all electric. So let's not get on to that.
I'd be happy if they banned gas stoves from my house too, as long as they pay to replace it, and the oven too, because I haven't had an oven for 18 months now, and I'd really like a roast pork, quite frankly.
Yeah, instead of buying it down there, carve it up.
We'll also point out quickly, Christian Mansell is still doing great guns in the Euro Formula race at I think it was at Paul Ricard on the weekend. I watched the third race where he finished second to Oliver Goethe. who's leading the series at the moment, but Christian won the second race, which was the reverse grid race. That's the second meeting in a row, I think, that he's won the reverse grid race, and had a fourth, and went to last and fought back to fourth. So he's another sort of young Australian, along with our mate Hugh Barter, that are really sort of making it on the world stage at the moment. So good luck. It's been a while coming for Christian too. He was sort of there or thereabouts for a while, and really wasn't taking the next step. But certainly in Euro Formula, he seems to have found his spot. And they're nice cars too. They're more like a real Formula 3 cars. The current Formula 3 cars that run with the Grand Prix, they don't look like Formula.
We're flipping
as Mark's saying, Oliver will win the championship. There's no doubt about it. He's very well resourced, and he's obviously clearly got some talent as well. But Christian's doing a great job.
We're flipping between subjects left, right, and centre tonight. But something that did catch my eye too yesterday was the new Global Supercross Championship. So Brett and I were lucky enough to cover some Supercross at Marvel Stadium a few years ago. It feels like yesterday, and it feels like 10 years ago. It was somewhere in between. So Ryan Sanderson and his colleagues are launching a brand new FIM World Championship in the sport of Supercross, and they're looking to fill two very important roles within the sport. So they're trying to find some people that have got at least 10 to 15 years experience in commercialism and sponsorship. But look, that looks very bright as well, though, too. Supercross has been relevant and is extremely popular in here. I think they usually fill the stadium, and we usually go to the presser beforehand in the couple of days leading up, don't they, Brett? And they move heaven and earth to get all those tons of dirt into Marvel Stadium and then get it all back out.
Now, is this in? This is not the one that Tony Cochrane's involved in now, is it? I think Tony's got Supercross Masters or something, but Tony Cochrane is now up to his neck in it as well. So that's Tony.
Yeah. So this is up over in Chevron Island on the Gold Coast. So it could be.
Yeah.
He took the director of television from Supercars to Supercross.
Yes. So Tony's back in that, and Tony knows a good thing. Tony is famous for jumping on and jumping off at exactly the right time to take something to the top. And then he sort of when he jumped into Supercars, the golf guy Peter Thompson, the British Open golf winner, wrote a thing saying, just beware. This is what he did. He jumped on at the right time. He rode the hill to the top of golf. He brought golf up to and just when it was about to go down the other side, he said, Thank you, everybody. I'll see you later. And he walked away, and it just fell off. And he did pretty much the same in Supercars as well.
When he's doing this rise and he's on the bike, I hope he knows how to land the motorbike. He's ridden one before, because it's a very hard thud, and it's a big crash if you're actually still on the bike when you hit the ground and you're not landing properly. So
the good news is, if he's running something, I mean, we'll get we'll have that, because Tony's a very good media performer. Yeah. As I've always said, we had a really good relationship. I personally had a great relationship with Tony. He was always very accessible to us. He was always very helpful, and he gets a lot of bad press for a lot of things, but for us, he was always fantastic.
He has a bit of tend to put a little bit of foot in mouth. Don't get me wrong, because Tony's just telling it like it is. So we respect him for that, but it'll be good for Supercross when it's back at Marvel Stadium in the next year or two, because when they brought those Yankees over there, did they love Australia, Brett? We had a good chat with a few of them over here, and the Aussie guys were very forthright with their opinions and their experiences, and everyone got along like a house on fire. So it'll be good fun. Hopefully this time, not only we'll just do the Friday press, we'll be able to go to obviously the main event sometime over the weekend, because they're great races to watch as well too. Exciting watching a bike flying 50 metres above your head.
Yeah, Jeff saying, put him in charge of S5000. I was going to sort of talk about that. It's S5000.
I'll just say one thing. 8 cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
8 cars.
Yeah, I know. It's a real problem. I mean, I think it's hard to say which way it's going to go, but I mean, everyone was so excited with it, and everyone who's driven to say that. But at the same time, I saw somebody post something like, somebody who is not of my generation, who basically said, look, these cars, even though they've changed it considerably, these cars are very much a nostalgia act for people of my generation who grew up and loved Formula 5000. And as he said, I have no idea what a Formula 5000 is or was. I'm not interested. They're old, they're slow. I'm not interested. So, that's coming from a young person who just said, like, give me something, give me something fast, give me something modern, give me something, 4-cylinder and turbocharged or hybrid or electric or something, but I'm not interested in these dinosaurs. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a case of if they can get the summer series up and running. That's what was always planned. And if you imagine if they can start at Bathurst and finish at Albert Park, and run a couple of rounds in New Zealand as well, I think they've still got an opportunity to get a lot of interest from overseas, from young drivers looking to make a name for themselves over the European summer. I think that's the thing. They can't run at this time of the year. Nobody's, they get fields for the Grand Prix and for Bathurst, all the other, and it's the same as Formula 3.
Events.
Formula 3 was the same. Yeah, Formula 3 was the same. I used to have these discussions with Richard Crail a lot, and it was like, they had 19 cars, they had 23 cars at the Grand Prix. Yes, but 2 weeks later they were down at Symonds Plains and they had 8 cars, and that's what's happening with S5000.
Well, and the other thing is too, not just having the cars and the right events and the right exposure we're talking about. You also have to have the right mix of drivers. So you can't have 35, 45-year-old drivers in 8 cars lapping around because they're the only ones who can afford them, even though they're a budget version of an open wheeler in the high end style. You've got to have these people who have been putting these young guys into it, maybe out of Formula Fords and giving them a squirt in a S5000 and upskilling them, and then they can move on to whatever they can that suits them either here or overseas. Because as we said before, if they want it to be a proving ground for the younger generation, you also have to have the right mix out there, because there's no use just having a whole bunch of young drivers between the age of 15 and 18 or 15 and 23, because then you haven't got the experienced ones out there that can actually, they can share their experiences. So it's having the right cars in the right time, in the right races, as you said, Brett.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
It's interesting, though, because I have someone in my family who's much younger than me that comes to the Grand Prix with me, and when they've had the 2-seater there, which is the V10 loud engine and fast, they've said, wow. And
well, you've got to. I mean, with that, the sound of that is insane. I mean, that's it. I think that's one of the.
Sorry, and the S5000s are loud and fast, but yeah,
I just don't think they're quite fast enough. I mean, I know why Chris and everybody did it that way. They didn't want them. They didn't want to have them, too much aero. They wanted them to slide around a bit. But they surprised me, especially when they went to Bathurst. That it surprises me that they're not that much faster than the supercars. And it's like, or in fact, they're not that much faster than the GT3 cars. Probably a better example. So if you're going to have the leading open wheeler category in Australia, if you're going to run it as Australia's Formula One, the cars have got to be seriously challenging to drive, and they've got to be fast. And I don't know whether the S5000s are in their current format are fast enough.
They are seriously challenging the drive. They've got that part right. So how can you the top end speed though? But they weren't designed like that in the first place. Remember, we were talking to Chris and we were talking to Barry and the rest of the mechanics. You and I were there in its infancy, just before it went to an exhibition race at Sandown. We saw some test runs at Phillip Island, etc. And we got a bit of lowdown and hoedown on them, and they weren't designed like that. Yes, they do have the modern technology in the cockpit and the safety and the halo in them, but they were designed to be a raw engined multi car, just a controlled engine that everyone had the same power.
Yeah, I think Giuseppe is saying we need to follow New Zealand Formula Toyota. The problem with that is they have tried the thing with Formula Toyota, and it's really weird because. We did an interview with the guy who runs Formula Toyota. I mean, during the lockdown, actually, it was it's on our YouTube channel. Somewhere you will find it. It was like just before I think they ended up cancelling the Formula Toyota series in New Zealand. And Toyota, I get all of their media releases, not just for Formula Toyota, but also for the 86 series over there. I get all the stuff from New Zealand. And the level of commitment from Toyota is just, ridiculous over there. Toyota over there are really, really behind it. And I know that a lot of people who went to Toyota here in Australia and really tried to push them to bring Formula Toyota over here, and it was zero interest. It was literally, they said, we have no interest at all in this. This is not something we want. We're just nothing. So if they're not going to sort of get behind it, and and the other thing about Formula Toyota is, and incidentally, Formula Toyota, if you had a look at the W Series in Spain, they were Formula Toyota cars. Because of the whole logistical thing, New Zealand have sent their Formula Toyota cars to the W Series, so they're running them in. So they were what's running in the W Series in some rounds as well. So they're really good cars. They're really nice cars. They put on good racing, and it's been very successful over there. Hey, listen, we better get going now. That's sort of the hour, and I think we've outstayed our welcome. I'll just let everybody know a couple of important things. Huge weekend of motorsport. If you heard the noise, something was coming up telling me that apparently tomorrow at 10 o'clock there's something called the Monaco Grand Prix. Free Practice 1 is coming up. So you might want to tune into that. And incidentally, if you aren't subscribed to KO, once again, practice and qualifying are free on freebies at KO. You don't need to be subscribed. So if you just want to watch the practice, qualifying, and leave the race for wait for the highlights, you can watch that over the weekend as well. Nürburgring 24 hours, Monday morning on Stan Sport. It's the only place you can see it in Australia now for a ridiculous amount of money. But Stan Sport have the Indianapolis 500. Scott Dixon from New Zealand on pole. Will Power coming out of position number 11. Scott McLaughlin. They made a bit of a gamble in qualifying, and it didn't pay off. So he's coming from the 26th on the grid. But in the Indy 500, you can start from anywhere and win. So that's coming. As I said, Santa Pod. FIM European Drag Racing Championships from Santa Pod, Nürburgring 24 hours, British GT Championship. There is no shortage of motorsport, and I can also just say quickly, very important, announced. I had it officially confirmed this afternoon. We can now confirm. We can say definitely that after this Tuesday night, Channel 31, 8 o'clock, the final edition of this season of In Pit Lane before we go on the winter break. But there will be a second series starting in September. It's been confirmed. Studio has been booked. Channel 31 are on board. And once again, I've heard from Roy that Online Event will probably be back with us as well. So we can say, yes, In Pit Lane will be coming back later in the year. But during the break, we will still be doing the full course yellow, perhaps not every week, but most weeks. We'll also have other things. We're going to do some long-form interviews. We're going out to do some car features. We're going to go out. So a lot of stuff coming up on the In Pit Lane YouTube
I thought
channel.
we were on holidays. What's all this stuff? No, I'm kidding. No, we're looking forward to it. Holidays.
No rest for the wicked, mate.
Yeah, we're crazy wicked. Hey, just another thing. I just want to go half a step back before we get on the box. Because we had the New Zealand theme going there for a second with Giuseppe and yourself. A big shout out to Geordie Mickles, who liked some of the stuff that we posted from the Liquid Molly 12 Hour. So he's probably home back over there in New Zealand. He joined us on the show in the last couple of years, and he invited Brett and myself and anyone else to do it who's part of the In Pit Lane family to go over there, and we can stay with him and go racing with him and hanging out with him. And
be careful what you wish for, Geordie.
Well, he did. Remember, he was on the show with us that night.
Yes,
and he said,
and came out to run run S5000.
Yeah, he said, come out over to New Zealand anytime. We'll put you up for as long as you want. We'll feed you, because beer's very cheap over there too. I assume it's like less than half a cent.
No, it's not.
Inflation's got hold of them as well then too. Anyway, what it was leading to, thanks, Geordie, for the likes you gave us on thing, and thank you everyone else, because some of the stuff Christian and I were able to do up at the Bathurst 12 Hour Brett reposted it, and then they checked out some of the stuff that we put up as well too. So a big thank you for all the support and all the well wishes and the thank yous, etc. for the stuff. Liquid Molly 12 hour, we're hoping it for bigger and better, and it's going to be great early next year. So just thank you to all our fans and fans of air conditioners and radiators that listen to us out there. So thank you.
And also, just very quickly, we'll wrap it up with the thing. As I said on the show, and you will see if you watch us recording the show on Tuesday night, or if you watch the show itself on Tuesday night, on this Tuesday night at 8:00 on Channel 31 or on the YouTube channel. A huge thanks to Roy and Online Invent for getting us back on the air, because we wouldn't be back on the air without him. As I said, there is a cost involved in putting all of this together. It's not a huge cost for what we do, but without that support, without the support of Online Invent, there wouldn't have been a series of In Pit Lane. It was really, personally to me, it was really important that we got back and did at least one series back in the studio after all of the chaos over the last few years. I would have hated it to say, well, it's winding up on a whimper like after all this time. But we had a great 13 weeks. We had lots of new people.
14 weeks.
Well, it turned out to be 14 weeks in the end, but so you're getting a bonus show. So we won't send you a bill for that one, Roy. You're getting that one as a bonus. But that's But yeah, because we didn't know that was happening. But yes, we ended up doing 14 weeks. So yeah, thank you to everybody concerned, RMI TV, Channel 31, and all of the crew who came together and put in the time and effort every week to make it happen. Okay, that's all we've got time for this week. We better get out of here. So have a great weekend. Going to be a massive weekend to most. I don't know how I'm going to fit all this in for the news on Tuesday night. I'm not on holidays. I'm going to have a very, very busy Monday. Okay, everybody.
You just stole my catch cry. I usually say have a good weekend at the end, but you've already done it for me this week. Well done.
No worries. We'll catch you. We'll catch you next week on Full Course Yellow. See you, everybody. Bye bye.
Have a great racing weekend.